the Latino Free Minds podcast, your home for bold conversations grounded in faith and fueled by a passion for truth. I'm fired up today because we're continuing something truly special, our Know Your Candidate series, where we're sitting down with the men and women who want to represent you and lead our communities here in California. Let me tell you something straight from the heart. California, our beautiful golden state, is worth fighting for. It's worth saving. Packing up and leaving? That's not who we are. We're a people of resilience, of hope, and of unwavering faith, and we're not giving up on this place we call home. Here at Latino Free Minds, we're rooted in our Christian values: faith, hope, and charity. These aren't just words to us. They're the guiding light for how we live, how we love, and how we lead. Over the next year, we're bringing you face-to-face with candidates who want to shape California's future. Our mission? To dig deep, ask the tough questions, and give you the clarity you need to make the best choice for your family, your community, and your faith. This isn't about politics as usual. It's about finding leaders who share our values, who see California not just as a state, but as a home filled with families, dreams, and God-given potential. We believe that when you listen to these conversations, you'll be empowered to vote with your heart and your conscience, grounded in the principles that matter most: faith in God, hope for a better tomorrow, and charity towards one another. California's future is in our hands, and together we can choose a path that honors our families, strengthens our communities, and reflects the love and truth we hold dear. So grab a seat, open your heart, and join us for these powerful Know Your Candidate episodes. Let's shine a light, lift our voices, and show the world that California is worth fighting for. Stay with us. This is going to be a journey you don't want to miss. Hey everybody, welcome back to Latino Free Minds. This is episode 157, and we are continuing our Know Your Candidate series. Today we are joined by Sam Gallucci, I hope I said that right, who's a dynamic leader, pastor, entrepreneur, and advocate who's dedicated his life to faith, service, and fighting for freedom in California. He's a former high-tech business executive with over 20-year career building companies and creating jobs. Sam left the corporate world to enter to a higher calling. Since 2007, he served as a senior pastor at Embrace Church in Oxnard, where he's built impactful ministries helping thousands, including getting over 4,000 people off the streets throughout outreach to the homeless. He's the founder and CEO of the Kingdom Center, providing emergency shelter and support for at-risk women and children. Sam is also an author, coach, humanitarian who's run for office, including Congress in California District 26 and the 2021 California gubernatorial recall, always pushing to restore California's soul by tackling homelessness, cutting burdensome regulation, improving education, and defending core values like liberty and opportunity. So without further ado, Sam, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh man, it's great to be with you, Danny.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. I hope the intro was I wasn't wrong on anything there, but
No, you nailed it, brother.
all right, cool. Tell the people a little bit. I mean, I told them, but tell them a little bit about yourself from you.
Yeah, we've had so many people here in California. Uh, uh, we voted into office, and they've forgotten why they're there. Right? They're supposed to be there for us. That's why the House of Representatives is called the People's House. But they're there for their personal interest, special interest, highest bidder, and they expect our vote, but they completely ignore our voice and they trample our values. And man, I just was in a place where I've had two incredible careers. God has blessed me, and I saw that in Ventura County, this district is called District 26. Mm-hmm. I had a real opportunity to make a difference, and just this unique perspective and actual gifting to bring people together. I mean, actually do something. And that's, kind of the center of my campaign. All these candidates, they talk, they do nothing. They make all these promises, but I've asked myself, which I think most of us ask, have we really been represented? So for most of us, it's this feeling of being ignored. And so I jumped into this race because, after the first 20 years of learning how to run businesses, deal with budgets, understand how business works and what it takes to actually solve problems. Um, the last 20 years, I've been all about understanding how to love people and using, God's word and God's principles, and being in the fire of understanding what love really is. I have brought all kinds of people together. I've actually done that many, many times over 18 years. Democrat, Republican, every race, every color, even people of faiths that don't represent directly the Christian faith, but we rise above our differences to the callings of things we have in common. And that's what I've done. That's kind of been my DNA. And I just feel like along the way, these politicians have forgotten about that. In fact, they're so polarizing. And now there's these extreme left and extreme right positions, and the politicians running in this race against me, that's absolutely where they've landed. And my heart and my race and my example has been just the opposite, bringing people together, solving problems, and focusing on the things we have in common. And there's much we have in common, and there's much, it's urgent here in the state of California to address some of the issues that are really critical, very concerning to all of us as voters.
Mm-hmm. No, and that's a good point, and it's something you see here locally in California and federally, right? Uh,
Right.
you have elected representatives that should be representing everyone that lives in their district, not just their party.
Right.
And that's exactly what we see. And I think, a huge reason why things don't get done, um, to the point you made about the extremes, it's like if the political elected people were just focused on the stuff where we can all agree on,
Right.
we'd be so, it wouldn't be perfect, but I can imagine we'd be better off than where we are now,
Amen, brother.
here in California. And I think that's one of the things that, with the podcast and the content that we try to do is just make people think. I'm not telling you be all the way right. I'm not telling you be all the way left, but there is stuff right here that
Right.
think about it. Come on, like, are we really that off? So,
Right.
you know, to, to what you said, and I agree with that. I think that's what we need to focus on is what do we agree on to get things done, to make life better, especially, here in California.
Yeah, man, it's so true, Danny. I mean, there's some great examples, right? The great words of Martin Luther King, let us not look at the color of our skin, but the content of our character. And I think that can apply here. Let us not look at the color of our party, but rise above it to what we have in common, the content of our common sense, right? That what we have in common. And that is what radically has to change right now. And I believe people are ready for it because there are critical issues. We vote these people into power, and then, and in our case, in the state of California, we're in crisis mode. One party has complete dominance and control, and they have for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Complete control. So we have to finally stop and say, wait a second, time out. Do I really want to just pull the lever of a certain party just because it's my party? Or is it working for me? Sooner or later, we have to ask ourselves, is this working for me and my family and my children and my pocketbook? It is crazy what these politicians have done to the state that I love. I've been here 65 years. This is home. This is where I grew up and lived, and this is all I know. And it's not the state that I remember as a kid, or even when I raised my kids. It's not the same state. It has gone in the toilet for all the wrong reasons because of mismanagement, gross incompetence, and then personal agendas that do not reflect the agendas of the people. And we've got to get this seat and give it back to the people. And I think God's raising up several people for that purpose, because I think he loves this state, and I think he wants it back to its roots. It's true California dream roots.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think, this is a beautiful state, right? I think people obviously people make fun of it all the time because of,
Right.
like you said, the 20-year leadership of Democrats, My entire life, I've lived here in California, and I can say that living here on almost 40 years, it hasn't gotten better at all. There's not one part of California where as we're younger, we go to San Francisco.
Right.
You visit LA, you visit San Diego, Santa Cruz, Monterey, the beaches, all that. Like, you visit it because it's beautiful.
Right.
But when you go to those places nowadays, it's like, man, like, it still has a little bit of that like
Right.
nostalgic beauty, but sometimes don't even want to go there
Right.
anymore. And
Right.
it's like, we're in a sense, it feels like these politicians, people say, oh, you pay more for the weather, you pay more for the beauty. That's why the people put up with the taxes and all that stuff. But it's like politicians shouldn't have to punish us or test us or push us to see how far they can go, until people actually start to leave. And obviously we've seen a lot of people in the recent years, take off. We've seen a lot of people start to homeschool. So, signs like that is just shows that, people aren't happy with what's going on.
Right.
And these elected people, because I mean, they're regular people like you and me. They're nothing special. They're people that you would hope, went in there to help their district, to help the people that they're
Right.
representing. And I think that gets lost, especially the longer they're in there. I feel like they lose that vision or that goal, or maybe what inspired them to run in the first place.
Right. Exactly. No, there's no question about it. So here we have a state that once was number one, number two in education. Man, when I was raised, um, the public schools were phenomenal. They were rated among the best in the nation, right? And our budget for public schools was about half what it is today. But now you fast forward, and right now we spend more per child than literally almost every single state in the union, and we rank at the very bottom. In fact, in my district in Ventura County, and it's pretty much consistent across the country, um, K through eighth graders, you look at eighth graders and you look at 12th graders, and only 50% of them can read at grade level. And only 17% can do math at grade level. And yet we spend right now $27,000 per student. Now in Virginia, they spend about 17,000, and 83% of their kids can read and do math. And they rank way up higher. So the amount we spend in education, and we're not educating our kids. We had one of the most beautiful places to live. It's still beautiful, but the cost of living was reasonable. It was on par with the rest of the country. Now we're the most expensive state, among the most expensive, us in New York, to live in. The average income here, in our in parts of our district is about 52,000, but it requires over $106,000 a year of income to live in our state. That's just to barely survive, right? The
Right.
cost of gas. We used to have gas comparable. I remember it was 25 cents. I'm dating myself, but now it's over $5 and soon to go up to $8 because of gross mismanagement of our oil and our refinery management. And the list goes on. Fires, fires devastating. The lack of water and water management, the taxes that are unbelievable. And then you get to the regulations, crazy regulations. I mean, things that people do not believe in. And this is what the Democrats have given us, and it is ridiculous. Newsom's spending is crazy and out of control. He inherited a surplus, a multi-billion-dollar surplus, and he is and his legacy is a $15 billion deficit. And the person I'm running against is the Democrat. You look at the bills that have been passed that are completely illogical and completely stripping all the dignity of parents, right? So this, and I can go on that list now or at some time if you'd like, but there are so many things that are going on. What we spend on prisoners, right? And we've reduced the number of prisons. We've let criminals back out on the streets. I mean, every dimension of this, we've cashless bail, right? So they can get bail without having to come up with cash. Criminals back on the streets, and you see rape and burglaries and all kinds of federal offenses because of that. It is horrid what these politicians have done, and it has to be a massive wake-up call for us here in California that it's time for a massive change. You cannot pull the D lever anymore. I'm sorry. They are completely in control, and there's no excuse for what we've had that they can give us other than it's their fault. They have driven this state into the ground.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. And I think, we tell people all the time, vote your reality, right?
Right.
And it goes back to what we've been talking about. The state hasn't gone any better. Your reality, they can, Newsom
Right.
can tell you you're the fourth largest economy, this,
Right.
and that. But it's like reality is we're in a deficit.
That's right.
The reality is the most expensive state. We're the most taxed people. We got the most fees on anything, pretty much.
You name it, anything.
Yeah. And it's like that's reality. Reality isn't that whatever it is they're trying to hype people up with, and that's what we try to tell people. It's like, look, you're living here. You felt how hard it is to get by. Gas,
Right.
I think almost close to $2. It's just taxes and fees.
Let me talk about gas for a second, Dan, because this is a real tangible example. So we have a crisis in our country, in our state. The climate activists have absolutely taken complete control. Now, look, the climate is changing, and we need to be good to our environment and all that. But because of their efforts, they have run out. We used to have 44 in 2019. We had 44 refineries. Then we got down to 9 refineries, and they have pushed to take the oil companies and get them out of our state. Well, they've done a good job. Now, this year, because all those refineries closed, we used to have surplus, right? Mm-hmm. At 9 refineries, we barely had enough for oil, for gas for all of the cars. Now, because of the regulations, because of the attack at every level on these oil and gas companies, you now have Valero shutting down. So, and then you just had Phillips Petroleum leave the state. So we went from 9 to 8, and later this year we'll be at 7. Now, here's the issue. We have 28 million vehicles on the road in the state of California. 1.2 of them are electric, right? Mm-hmm. And so electric cars were growing, and consumers could get solar on their roof. That was the most practical way to get an electric car. And you could, in the past, it was called NEM2, offset all of your electricity to against your bill. So that means that if your bill was like $50 a month, you could justify solar, and you could get an electric car, and you could really lower your cost of fuel. Mm-hmm. Well, the great state of California, the electric company said, well, wait, we're losing too much business. And obviously the grid is shot. We're losing too much business. You can't do that. So in their infinite wisdom, the Democrats in power voted to called NEM3, and that happened about a year and a half ago. And now only 40% of the electricity for solar you can offset, which means it takes the middle income America and lower income completely out of the market. So you're stuck at about 1.2 million. Now back to that. That means there are 26.8 million cars on the road in California. The average car takes 500 gallons of gas per year. That's over 13 billion gallons of gas. At 9 refineries, we barely could keep up if we were right here. And the infinite wisdom of the Democratic Party is get rid of them. They're worthless. They're trash. They're ruining our environment. We don't need them. So they're gone. We now have 7 refineries, 20% deficit for the cars on the road today. And who is most impacted? Middle America, right? And lower income and the middle class. They're the ones affected, not the wealthy. So now what has to happen? They need gas. That's just a fact, like today. So we're going to have to import it. It's going to cost more basic math, 1 + 1 is 2, to import it, and then with all the regulations and all the additives added on to import it, then if it was here and you were distributing it locally. So gas is going up to $7, $8 a gallon overnight. And that is because of Democrat policy, period, full stop, because of the radical policies that didn't pay attention and are incompetent and have taken the excess. It's like saying you should have no savings in the bank. Just your money you make, you spend all of it, and don't worry about saving, right? Well, that's their policy, and that tells you everything you need to know. We get hurt. That's just one example, and that's right now because of the policies of the left. We're all going to get hurt. $8 a gallon gas is the difference between paying your bills and not, going to work and not. It cripples us.
Mm-hmm.
While we're paying $8, the rest of the country is paying under $3, $2.20 a gallon. And this is the kind of stuff, that we're facing.
No, it's true, right? And then, they push the electric vehicles, and I think someone asked about the mileage tax. It's like they push electric vehicles, then they're missing on the the taxes and fees of the gas that people are buying now. So now they're trying to tax per mileage to make up what they lost.
So check this out.
It's about money.
I know, right? So we're going to get $8 a gallon gas because that's all we can get. Then they want to put a mileage tax, which will add, if you have 2 cars, another $42,000 a year. This is why we all have to come together. We have to stand together, and we have to make a radical, different choice. Democrats cannot be trusted in the state of California. Why? Not because I say that, because of what they've actually done to hurt us. They voted in all those taxes. They did. They have a super majority. They voted to increase all those. And then, of course, where's the money actually going, right? There's so much fraud. But the mileage tax is, no one will be able to pay their bills, if that were to go through. And if the Democrats stay in power, it likely will. They'll come up with some creative word for it and think, oh, you can afford another whatever. We can't, right? We can't.
Yeah, no. But, well, hopefully, like I said, people are kind of, I feel that more people are waking up here in California. It does, sometimes when you kind of are already paying attention and you go, okay, that's the problem. And not everyone sees it as quick as you, or people are still kind of getting there. You want it to be faster, but I think people are getting there. I think they are seeing it. And then we'll see what happens, right? The important thing here locally is what we're trying to fix, right, in California, because it affects us quicker. But as far as your district, and you're running, it's Ventura County, which is Ventura, Oxnard, and that's those surrounding areas.
Oxnard, Camarillo, Santa Paula, Fillmore, a little bit of Ojai, and then it goes Camarillo, and then it goes Newbury Park, Thousand Oaks, Westlake, Moore Park, and then it goes over to Agoura and Calabasas. Okay. And Oxnard and Port Hueneme. That's the district.
Okay. What from you being there and wanting to represent there, like, what do you see as the main maybe concern or the main thing that could help your district out that maybe whoever's in there now isn't really tackling it or doing it or ignoring it or whatever it is?
Yeah. The issues that affect my district affect all of us. And that's the beauty of everybody supporting a congressman or woman that they really believe in, because the work that we do nationally is federal legislation. And when you look at the supremacy clause of the Constitution, federal law trumps state law. And so we are so far behind in California. To fix California, you have to go to the federal, and then come up with legislation that's very targeted to fix the problems that we have. And the problems in my district represent the problems in all of our district. Number one is the cost of living. And that starts directly with the cost of gas. Gas is a fundamental thing. And so that's the number one thing in our district, and I'm sure in all districts. We've got to address the cost of our gasoline and our fuel. It is killing us. The regulations on our small businesses have to be addressed for the cost of living. The taxes, I would be looking at some of these taxes I believe are unconstitutional, and I would tackle a number of those taxes in that way. The other big thing is parental rights and education. We have stripped our parents of their rights for their children. The state, and again, the Democrats, the Democrat Party, this is a clear and present danger. This is not rhetoric or I'm just making things up. They have done a meticulous job to take parents' rights away from their kids in the public school systems. Let me just give you an example of these actual bills that the Democrat I'm running against, and frankly, I bet in every district, the Democrats in that district, you should check because it's a super majority and most of them have voted for this. AB 495, caregivers without parental consent. That was just passed. That means anyone can fill out an affidavit and say, I'm a caregiver without a background check or confirming with the parents, and they can take your kid out of public school and take possession of them, claiming I'm a caregiver. AB 1955 prohibits the teacher from disclosing to the parent that the kid is struggling with their gender. So before, the law required the teacher to tell the parents, hey, your daughter or your son is struggling with their gender. Now it prohibits them. They have to literally keep it from the parent or lie to the parent. That coupled with the California Healthy Youth Act that was passed in 2019, which is integrating into the water system the transgender ideology, the entire agenda. And there's no way you can opt your kid out because it's under the bullying clause. So all of the textbooks, he and she, are being taken out. This curriculum that is required as part of bullying, not sex education, bullying, is integrated in all the way down to kindergarten, where they're teaching that, hey, if you're having certain feelings, you might not really be a girl, you might be a boy. And let me explore that with you. And so they're promoting it. So, and here in the age of innocence, the age of exploration, cool things, they're promoting it. And then they're not telling the parents that after they promoted it, now they're a little confused. You can't tell the parents. So unless there's some other way the parents can know, they can't address it early with their child. Then there's the great AB 957 and then SB 107, gender affirming healthcare, which means that the schools, get this, don't have to tell the parents that their kids are struggling with gender, and the kids now have rights. They can start to administer to these children puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones that chemically castrate boys, completely destroy the woman's ability to have her menstrual strikers, and then they make it legal to alter the actual physical body of a child, castrate a boy, take off perfectly good breasts from a little girl. It's legal in the state of California. It's promoted, and it's actually funded because of these bills. Now, this kind of thing is insane. And then there's the great SB 145, which was passed, where if there's only a
10-year difference.
Yeah. Difference, right. Thank you. In the age, it's no, and so a 19-year-old has sex with an 11-year-old. It's no longer a mandatory sex offender offense. No longer. So it's up to the judge. And if the child says, oh, it was consensual, the judge could decide, no, this is not an automatic sex offense. So here you have now sex predators that can go after these kids without the understanding that it's instantly a sex offense. And oh, by the way, that gender affirming care also added AB 1266, which in the state of California, K through 12, it is legal for a boy. All that boy has to say, I'm a girl today, and they can go into the girls' bathroom, the girls' locker room. They can shower with these girls, and then these boys can be in girls' sports in the state of California. That, all of those things, whether you're a parent of a Democrat parent or a Republican parent or an independent parent, those are completely unacceptable. I mean, that's a line so far out of bound. And every one of these Democrat politicians, almost every one of them, you have to check. I know in my district that's the case. They voted for all this.
Yeah.
And that's who they really are. They are wolves in sheep's clothing with their voting record. And that is an issue in my district that absolutely has incensed them. Then you get to the quality of education itself. $27,000 a year, and the worst failing, where we rank 43rd, 44th, 45th, depending on the category. That is completely unacceptable. So I will go to the federal government, and I will do a bill called an act of Congress to restore all parental rights in education. This bill will ensure that all of these outrageous bills against the will of the parent will be a direct First Amendment right violation. And that's the kind of legislation, along with the current bills on the book, that will break all of these bills off and get sanity back in the rights of the parents, because parent values are being completely shredded in education. Then federal education, I'll go to the Department of Education. President Trump is dismantling it and wants to give all that money back. I will make sure that money comes and is given to all the parents for school choice. And so these parents can exit the public school system or find a public school that does not have that wokeness yes in them and has a much better reputation for a higher academic standard. And they can shop it, because to the state, the child is the customer. But the reality is that the parent is the customer in education. The child belongs to the parent, not the state. Those are the kinds of things I'll do. Then the issue of homelessness is completely out of control. And we have failed, Danny, in addressing the homeless crisis. I've been addressing homeless for 18 years, up to down, side to side. I know this issue extensively. I've written 2 books on the topic, More Than Animals. You can get it on Amazon, Sam Gallucci, which is a comprehensive plan how to truly address homelessness. And then a book called A Love That Nobody Wants, which is the story of what we went through, and it humanizes the homeless plight, and it just tells the story of how we addressed it and the glorious things that we found of God's love in the process. We got to address that. And then the other big one is immigration. Mm-hmm. We have to address it in our state. We have 8 million immigrants that came into this country without proper papers over the last 40 years. And when they came into this country, they came into work, and America hired them. And they have continued to vote for them to stay employed. And then you have a separate population which came in, and a big part, the data shows it clearly, under the Biden administration, 10.8 million came in under Biden. And you have a lot of criminals, and then you have a lot that are completely entitled. They just came in to get stuff, right? You look at the Somali situation in Minnesota, where most of them are on welfare, and then all of the fraud. Those people are not these working immigrants here in my district and across the state. And we have to address that with common sense. And that's exactly what I will do. We have to restore a modern day version of the Becerra program that allows those that are merit-based to continue to work and immediately give them work visas for the work that they've demonstrated that they've done. That's it. That's it. Just to get them a legal paperwork. That's all we want to do. The rest of the system can work itself out, but they can't do anything because they don't have a legal paper, right? And then you have all this corruption taking advantage of these people. The black market takes advantage of them. And that's an 80-20 issue, where common sense immigration, get all of the criminals out, but the merit-based workers in every industry. So the Becerra program was just for the farm industry, but you take the best of it and you address the worst of it, but you have to expand it to be a hybrid for all essential workers that aren't just seasonal, but they're here year-round, working manufacturing, distribution, hospitality, restaurant, you name it. They have their own cleaning businesses, lawn maintenance businesses. We all have people that we love in our life. And so address that with common sense, but actually get that done. Those are a few of the many things: the fire issue, the water issue. But federal legislation can be brought to bear to wake up California and make a difference where the state has failed.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you touched on a lot there, and to kind of go back to the bills real quick, one of the guys that is in our current California state legislature, he's a senator here, state senator Scott Wiener. He's running for Congress also. I think he's trying to get the seat Nancy Pelosi is leaving. And we've been telling people, hey, there's people that ran away from California, left it because they couldn't put up with it. But the guy that a lot of the bills that you mentioned, I think he's involved with, if not all of them, at least most of those. He's trying to get to the federal level. So just be on the lookout for that guy.
Oh, absolutely.
He's in a very friendly district for his for what he pushes. But no, and to get back to immigration, we talk about it here on the podcast many times. We've done several clips on it. And it's something that we have to approach it with some nuance, right? You said it, that there are people that have been here a long time.
Yeah.
They've been working, they've been living their life, and I get it, we get it, they didn't come legally. Okay, I get it. But at least they've shown that, okay, they have that history, that they're valuable to their community.
Exactly, Danny.
But also what you said too is true. What Biden allowed to happen does not help those people.
It hurt those people.
And also, sanctuary laws that we have do not help those people, because I don't understand why, if you have someone that's here illegally, they break another law, as far as most of them are usually crazy, like child abuse, DUIs,
right.
Other sorts of abuse. If you arrest those guys, I don't understand why you wouldn't just say, hey, get him out of here. He's a danger to his community, and he shouldn't even be here to begin with. I think that's one thing that California itself needs to do, is get rid of the sanctuary laws. The other thing too is, part of the problem with immigration is our representatives have kind of strung that along. The Democrats, for as long as I can remember, have always promised they're going to do pathways to citizenship here or there. They've I think Joe Biden said in his first 100 days he was going to fix DACA. So there's a lot of empty promises that throughout the years just continue to happen. So that's part of the problem too, is our government has allowed that to just get worse and worse and worse. And it's our fault too, because we vote for those people that don't fix the problem. And it's
Danny, it's so true.
Kicking the can, or it's like playing ping pong, right? It's you hit it to the Democrats and they say, all right, everybody's gonna get citizenship. You throw it back to the Republicans and it's like, we're gonna deport everybody. And at the end of the day, more people come in and we don't deport everybody.
Exactly. You're right.
It just that number just is going to keep going up unless we actually find a real solution. But it's going to take conversations to go back to the beginning, where it's like, okay, what do we agree on here? What do we see valuable here? Not just deport them all or let everybody in. That's not going to work. It's got to be here. And I think more people have to have that conversation. More people got to be open, especially elected officials got to be able to, all right, let me hear you out. Let me hear why you want everyone deported. Let me see what's the mentality in that. It's not because you're racist. Maybe it's because, okay, you're looking at the economy, you're looking at safety. What is it? And Democrat, tell me why you want everybody here. You have to have that conversation and see what it is that you can agree on, because we're not going to agree on everything. I get it, but even those topics where we're not going to fully agree, there can be something worked out.
You know, Danny, it's so true. And here's what I like to say. So, you know, for all the people that say everybody has to go, well, first of all, it's not realistic, and it's not going to happen. It's just our reality. President Trump is deporting however many, you know, maybe he can get 4 million of the 10.8 million that came in. Well, that's a net add of another 6.5 million people. And a lot of those people are not actually looking for work. And, you know, you've got all these criminals running around. God only knows how many, but there's a lot of them. But I think the thing that we need to recognize, it's all of our fault that this problem got where it is. So when the Democrats were completely in charge, they didn't do anything. When the Republicans were completely in charge, they didn't do anything. Federal government knows that they're illegals. The IRS gave them EIN numbers and they're paying taxes. They didn't do anything. The American people, they came in, they were not legal, and America hired them. We're complicit, right? So the ones that are working, I call them merit workers, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. It's not like, well, they're the problem and we're not. No, we broke the law too by hiring them and keeping them hired, knowing full well people know they're not here legally, and we kept them, you know, we kept hiring them. So what are you going to do? You're going to deport them and then put us all in jail? So the situation before Biden, it was a very different situation. That we have to own up to our own mistakes and understand there is something we can do. And I think for those of that think, oh, this isn't a Biden thing, just think about it. Before Biden, we didn't have this problem, right? And when president's first term in office, there weren't these mass raids. You know, that ICE would come in to go criminals here and there. And in my city of Oxnard, that was happening. But we didn't have this problem. All these people came in, and because of what Biden let in, ICE comes in and they round up a lot of these merit workers to find the criminal
guy.
And that's a lot of that is because of sanctuary city law. SB 45 was passed. The Democrat in this district was a part of it. It was passed by a supermajority of Democrats, and it said the sheriffs and the state local police cannot cooperate with ICE. So they get somebody that does some heinous crime, rape, right, arson, burglary, right, domestic violence, just heinous crime, all kinds of felony crimes. They get them into prison, and in the past, they could check they could check the federal websites. Is there an FBI outlook for this person? Is there an ICE detainer? Now for these federal criminals, if there's an ICE detainer, that means that there was a judge involved, knew he was a criminal, and there was due process to that person, and the judge decided they needed to leave the country. And so what they used to do is if they had that criminal in custody, they could call ICE and say, I see that this person's on your list. And ICE would pay for that jail, that state, that local jail, to keep them detained for an extra 2 weeks. They actually had an office and a desk for the ICE agent until they could come pick them up. And then ICE didn't have to go in the community. Right. So with sanctuary city laws, they can't keep them. They put them back out in the community. And what do you think is going to happen? So that's at the root of the problem. Now, that coupled with radical left that has so energized the radical left base with gross exaggerations, valid concerns, they turn into gross exaggerations to whip them up, to provoke ICE when they come out to get them, to do things above and beyond by resisting ICE and obstructing justice. They are a law enforcement agency. They're going to react, right? And then with all of that, then of course you have some bad apples in there, right? But that's in every law enforcement agency, and you have a perfect storm because of this. And so, yes, common sense tells us solve one problem. Those that are merit workers, you can vet them. I did a process where I started a certification where I took a form off of one of the bills in the federal a federal bill on immigration that didn't pass, but I liked this questionnaire that certified that this person was really who they said they were. In this case, an ag worker. And I've actually certified over 100 of my people in my community, and then I've done this to a lot of other people in other churches, whether they're ag or hospitality, and they certify, yep, this is who they work for, this is how many years they've worked, here's 3 references, background check, no, they don't have any other criminal record, here's how many years they've been in the country, here's how many children, grandchildren they have, all of this stuff. And so this is already a pilot that I'm trying, and it helps law enforcement. If they find somebody, we tell them, don't resist arrest, don't do what the radical left is saying, run, resist arrest, and all of that, because you're just going to get detained if they stop you, right? I mean, it's just obvious. But honor, respectful, yes sir, no sir, and then if they ask for your ID, show your ID. If they ask for more papers, show them you're a certified worker. This actually worked early on, and since then we've not had any of our people get approached. But there are programs like this that we can do. Simply get them the work visas, like a Becerro, give them the temporary work permits, solve that problem. Now you go after everybody else, and everybody gets blessed. And then again, we have to overturn these sanctuary city laws.
Yeah, because I think, when you get to the deport them all crowd, you when they hear people talking about trying to come up with a solution, the thing that they start shouting is,
Right.
no, we're not going to give amnesty. And it's like, and that's not what we're talking about. Exactly like the example you just said. It's like, look, if we give someone a work visa just to work, that person's not going to vote.
Right.
Obviously when it comes to California, we should have voter ID. Hopefully that goes through.
Hopefully.
That'll help with that too. But technically that person's not going to vote. It's not going to be a voter. It's just, hey, this person's here to work.
Right.
He's living here, making a living.
Right.
It's again, it's a big problem that has just snowballed and just continued to grow and grow and grow. And we're always going to be when it comes to amount of people that have come into this country, we're always going to be a positive because again, like I said, we don't deport everybody.
Right.
So, we'll hopefully, like you said, if you get into Congress and you're trying out that example you had, and even something like that is a start. Someone has to start the conversation, and we've talked about that before too. It's like you can't just be the extreme and not be willing to talk about it. Someone has to start the conversation, present ideas. I see people in our comment sections present better ideas than the people that are elected to actually bring some ideas to solve these situations. So it's just people dig into their side, dig into their beliefs, and it makes it tougher. But it is an issue that should be addressed. And right now I get that what people see with ICE, especially the Latino community, they don't like that.
Right.
Whether they voted for Trump or not, they don't like seeing that, and it's not about it. And it's crazy because it's like, there's people that feel that like they're entitled to be here. Right. And that's also not good.
That's not good.
Because, growing up, I knew, I've always known of ICE, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
La Migra. You knew that, okay, if you got caught, you're going to get deported.
Right.
That's just, it is what it is kind of thing. But nowadays it's more like, no, I can't be getting caught, and no, I shouldn't get deported. And it's like, well, that's not how it's worked. It's always worked the same way. It's the same laws being enforced the same way.
Right.
It's just, obviously the media puts the spin on it too. However they do it nowadays, you got a lot of young minds that do get manipulated through the school systems, through social media, through their favorite celebrity, whatever. And, they'll go out and protest and say this or that, and, things like that don't help the situation.
Right.
But again, hopefully more and more people start having serious conversations about this, and come up with a solution. Work visas just to work, and you're allowed to be here without being afraid of,
Right.
randomly getting deported one day, that sounds reasonable,
Yeah.
so it's something that hopefully we can start to really
We could start to really do. Yeah.
do.
And
Yeah.
those people, I bet, I know half of them would love that because they'd like to go back home. They'd like to be able to go and visit their family they haven't seen in 10, 20, 30 years. Some of them might actually move back, and then if they're a farm worker, and just come for the season. And so it blesses them as well, those merit workers, in many ways, as well as it blesses us. And, we have 8 million now in our workforce, and these are people in essential industries, a lot of them. And then there's this rhetoric that says, well, we don't need them. We have plenty of people that will take those jobs. Well, the common sense reality is actually no, because if we had them, America wouldn't have hired these undocumented people. They would have hired someone else. But they were the most qualified, the most capable. So that argument really is not a realistic argument, because America, the free enterprise, didn't choose them when they had those openings, or they wouldn't, or America, youth and everything else, didn't apply for those jobs. And with all our technology, you could apply for those jobs. So this is really, again, we all are to blame, and we need a common sense solution that calms things down and redirects ICE. And you know what I believe? We'll get a lot more of the criminals out. The Biden entitlement ones, those are the ones that need to go. And they're draining our resources. In California, the number that came under Biden, we used to have about 200,000 on Medi-Cal in the state of California, but during the Biden administration, it grew to 1.2 million. Wow. And billions of dollars we don't have to those entitlement class that came in under Biden. And a lot of those aren't working. And so they're also getting all kinds of other benefits. And if the benefits are going to them, they're not going to the homeless that are California, US citizens. And that population is growing, and they don't have access to the same thing. Yeah. And a bunch of others which could really use that.
No, yeah, it's kind of, a lot of things seem backwards, right? And it we'll see what happens, but hopefully we can get the ball rolling in the right direction. And the other thing too, a lot of people don't talk about during Biden's administration is the gotaways. I think it was like about 2 million gotaways, meaning people that came into this country that weren't tracked at all, other than maybe footprints that they found, and they estimate around 2 million people that we don't know who they are.
We don't know who they are.
And in that same time, and then we talked about this too, and at that time, and why you can't just have an open border, I believe they caught close to 300 people on the terror watch list.
Yes.
So, people got to keep that in mind, because with everything going on with Iran and all that, the strikes and the war and all that, there's 2 million people. We don't know who they are.
Right.
We know there was 300 people for sure that were on terror watch list. So, not everybody that comes here comes with good intentions.
No.
I think that's the mentality that people, especially Latinos, right? We have that. Our family came like that. We have like that guilt, or whatever you want to call it. And we think everybody's coming to do what our grandparents did and this and that. It's like, it's not all Latinos. It's from all over the world.
Right.
And yeah, they do come. The easiest way was through the southern border, through Mexico. But, I think that's part of the manipulation, right? To make you think that when you're talking about Border Patrol, ICE, that you're only talking about getting rid of Latinos. And that's just not the
case at all. Yeah, not the case at all. In fact, the ones that came in under Biden, the vast majority were not Latino. I mean, there were obviously some Latinos that came in, but they are so different. The majority of that population is so different than the Mexicans that came over. here in the state of California, it's primarily from Mexico. They're so different a population. And as a pastor, we work with hundreds. We feed every single day that community. We have members of our community that are undocumented, their family. My wife cares for their children. We know them. And they even say, Pastor, we're not like that. They're making it worse for us.
Mhm.
And they're making it worse, for us. And yeah, they're very different population.
Yeah, they are. But we're I've enjoyed this conversation, and we're getting close to the hour here. Um, I'll tell you something that if I was in your district, just based on this conversation we had, I would seriously consider voting for you
Thank
because
you.
even just on the immigration topic, just having that openness, that ability to get creative, like you said with the example of that list, that questionnaire, and trying to get people, even the idea of just a work visa, like
Right.
that's what it takes to actually get things done. And you've kind of right now, and just talking to you in this conversation, like you've proven that to me, that you're willing to have those conversations that lead to solutions versus the conversations that lead to further divide. So that's what, if I was in your district, right, that's how I'd feel after
Thank
listening
you.
to this. But I'm not in your district. But you still, here's the thing: people go, why you interview people that you can't vote for? Well, if Sam gets in the Congress, he's gonna vote for things that are still gonna affect me.
Amen, brother. Yes.
It still matters, right? So that's
And
why when we start.
everybody can be a part of this, Danny.
Yeah.
SamGallucci.com. SamGallucci.com. Give 26 for District 26 even. Any amount can help because these Democrats, they get millions of dollars, and to get the word out, you need the money.
Mhm.
And so that's what everyone that watches can do. They can help candidates like me that they believe, are more aligned with their values and want to restore their voice. And I could use that kind of help.
So before we wrap up here, what would be your final pitch to voter, anyone that's listening that's in your district?
My final pitch is simply this: I'm running to give this seat back to the people. We have a situation where the politicians expect our vote, but they ignore our voice and they trample our values. It's time for us to come together, stand together, and actually do something. I want to take this seat and give it back to the people, and want to be one of those that truly represent the people again and can be a model to help us save our state and make this district a shining light to bring back the California dream. Let's all come together. Let's stand together and actually do something for our children and our future.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a good pitch. Well, Sam, thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
I'd love to have you on again. So
Thank you.
we'll
Love it.
definitely schedule something again. We'll see how everything goes. Right, everybody that's listening, that's paying attention to these elections. We got our primaries in June. Show up to vote.
Yes,
I, I
yes,
saw
yes.
I saw I saw that in Texas, a lot of people. I don't know what it is with primaries, but a lot of Republicans think I could skip it. Like, please don't
No,
vote. Show up, vote, make your voice heard, because you can't sit out and then complain. It doesn't work that way.
no.
So
Gotta vote.
you got to show up to vote. Pay attention to who's running in your district,
Please.
who's been representing you, and see if they've been doing the job that they have a record now. They've been in there. So look up their record, and if it doesn't jive with you and what you believe in, maybe it's time for a change.
Amen.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. God bless you all, and peace be with you.
Peace. Take care.